Hey, and welcome back. We're here at the Marketer of the Day podcast with three-time guest Peggy Sealfon. Peggy's website is peggysealfon.com, mindbodyfitnessforlife.com, and liveyoungertoday.com. And Peggy is multifaceted. She has a new puppy. She combines the wisdom of ancient teachings with breakthroughs in science. She's a board-certified health coach, and she has programs such as Mind Body Fitness for Life. She's an award-winning author, motivational speaker, entrepreneur, podcaster. She's working on her doctorate, PhD in natural medicine. And what's great about the lifestyles we live these days is that it can all interconnect, right? We can have all this accumulated knowledge from all of our past careers and lives, and things can connect and not connect. And so we're going to find out what Peggy is all about these days, what has her excited. So Peggy, glad to be speaking with you.
I'm so happy to be here, Robert. Gosh, that did sound like a lot, but I love what you said about interconnectedness. It is so true. And I love the freedoms that we have to explore so many different avenues.
Yes. And what's great about being on a podcast is sometimes it goes in unexpected directions and we get surprised and the audience gets surprised. And it ties also in with what I understand is your current focus, which is reinventing yourself, right? Where you figure out the education and the science, but then sometimes you say, that it was a great period of my life, but it's time to jump into something new. So what has you currently excited? What is your focus and your passion?
Great question. And true, checkered career, many different avenues that I've pursued. And each avenue that I've gotten really immersed in has really come from my heart and my head. So personal interest, like curiosity, but then a passion for doing it. So most recently, I've gotten involved with a breakthrough technology that literally reverses aging. So I've been involved with it for about 2.5 years. And I just did comprehensive blood tests in January, 110 biomarkers. And literally the results showed that my biological age is 12 years younger than my chronological age. So that was really exciting to see that. And it's a very affordable, wearable technology that's really based on phototherapy. But the other side of it, especially for your podcast, that really fascinated me is the company. I really got involved because I loved the products, but the company is a network marketing company, and I was very resistant. So I was just a quote user. I liked the products, I used it. But then I began to realize other aspects of network marketing that I hadn't understood. And what I had found out through this whole experience was, past experiences are not what the present is. And so in the past, people who were involved in network marketing had a certain very aggressive approach to marketing, which I found personally offensive. It just wasn't my style. And it wasn't the way I like to work with people either. And so I've transitioned now to really understanding this is really about relationship marketing. And that changes the whole dynamic.
Wonderful. And you're so right that we've heard these kind of these bad stories, right? Like probably Mary Kay is the worst one. You think about like the pushy salespeople, but then you hear about every few years there are these kind of network marketing companies come about and they're like too successful for their own good, aren't they? They're really good with the messaging and they got all those people involved and they implode or they undergo like some kind of FTC trouble. There's always like an ending to the story. And then later on, you hear them say like, oh man, I wish that they'd done this differently with the way that they like took care of their salespeople, or I wish that they had not been like this risky or this aggressive. And so do you feel like sharing about like what's this network marketing company and how have they addressed some of these sorts of stereotypes that you and I are gossiping about?
So the company's been around 20 years. Most network marketing companies don't survive that long, or if they do, they move in different directions. And I think one of the real amazing aspects of this company is the inventor who's really at the top of it. And he's really brought us technologies that to me, he's like a time traveler from the future because we just didn't have what he brought to us available. And it started out in the early 2000s. He was working on a contract with the US government to create an energy product that would help the Navy SEALs have energy without added you know, drugs or caffeine. And so what he developed, it's an ancient technology based on photobiomodulation or phototherapy. But what he's done is actually applied it in such an accessible, affordable way that it's transformational. So it was so effective. He started by testing it on the Stanford women's Olympic swim team. He got introduced to Jim Quick through a network, someone knew someone. And so that impressed him about networking and relationships. And 6 out of the 8 members of that swim team broke their own records wearing this technology. So it was remarkable. And now, more recently, in 2019, his name is David Schmidt. He came out with this technology that activates a certain copper peptide in the body that literally activates our own stem cells. And that's about the point where I got involved. And I thought, this isn't possible. But I have seen absolutely miraculous results. People who've not only reversed aging, but literally reversed states of imbalance, disease states, if you will. And we're FDA approved as a wellness product, but not as a medical product. So we don't talk about disease states. But I can tell you that I have seen globally unbelievable resolutions of people's health conditions. But in addition to that, the energy levels, and that's what impressed me immediately when I first experienced these energy enhancer technologies, because I play competitive tennis and the summers are so beastly hot in Southwest Florida where I live. I was about to give up tennis for the summer because it would just exhaust me. And I started using these and I thought, wow, these work. And so when the newer technology with this stem cell activation came out, I was really excited to see, okay, what's the possibility here? So just to kind of circle back, I'm sorry to go on and on, but to circle back to the marketing aspect, David recognized the importance of relationships in the business world. And the company actually increased revenues globally over the last year, like 40%, which is unheard of. And he's done it from a heart-centered perspective. And so that's been my biggest lesson in network marketing. But it's been what I've done in marketing my whole life. In every aspect of what I've done, I've always come from my heart. That's been my first step and my focus. And to me, that's really important. But I've never been in a huge organization that approached marketing in that same way. So I felt a incredible resonance. But in addition, there's just amazing science information, there's patents, there's clinical trials. So there's so much support beyond, just the surface, and support from person to person involved within this company. So I'm part of a team of people who I admire, I really enjoy being with, and I realize in my whole career, I've always been the expert. And here, I don't have to be the expert. There's other people I can tap, as well as tools that are available. And to me, that was out of my comfort zone. And as a personal development coach, I always tell people, you know what, you can't grow from your comfort zone. So I'm happy that I've been growing in a completely different way. And it's been very exciting and really empowering in a whole other level.
It seems exciting, and I'm excited for you. And so there's so many cool ideas from what you just mentioned there, and it seems like the way that you think is very like timeline based. Like you were telling me about just like your own kind of like progression, and then this inventor's progression and what he's gone through, and it's really fun to think and communicate and listen in that way, right? Instead of saying like, "Oh, here's this list, here's these bullet points, here's these facts," instead you say, "Hey, these years ago, this happened and there was this problem. This led to this." It's a lot more fun to take in the information that way. And the lessons that are kind of within that I'm kind of digesting here is you're mentioning that there's the value in the networking and being a social person, even though there's like the delayed gratification to it, right? When you go and you talk to this person or that person, some of the relationships like either might not lead to anything, or you're just kind of figuring out your messaging, And so with David Schmidt meeting Jim Quick here, it's like that's I'm sure that was he wasn't the first person he talked to, but you kind of have that obsession with your own business and the persistence. And you mentioned this concept here of like kind of the heart what's it called? The heart-centered leadership or
Right, heart set passion, but connecting person to person from your heart center. Because, I really feel after the pandemic and the closing down and the separation that we all went through, I think the coming back together and really caring about one another truly makes a difference. And again, in my profession, in everything that I've done, I've always cared. But I've worked with people who don't necessarily share that approach. And it has been so amazing to me to see a whole company kind of based on this concept. So I'm not saying everyone is on the exact same page and that there aren't some of the people involved who are aggressive, because there is a huge business component and a huge upside. People are making a lot of money in this company. So I don't want to minimize that. But my point is, I feel, and my personal approach is, when you go to things by helping one another. What can I give? Not as much what can I get? You actually get a lot more. So you actually can make a lot more money when you come from that place of really giving from your expertise, from your experiences, from whatever it is, as we're doing now. To me, that's what we're all about. And so I really appreciate this podcast and what you're offering, because I think it's really important for people to hear that and realize, no, there isn't one size fits all. There isn't one set path that you have to follow to make something work for you. There's a little bit of experimentation, but there's really heart, and then blending it with mind and pushing through to that next level of becoming a better version of yourself with each step you take. To me, that's kind of part of that process.
I love it. And it ties in with us talking about reinventing ourselves and renewing ourselves. And so it seems like if we were to tap into this idea, the think working from where like the heart and the mind overlap and caring more and having the empathy and having the selflessness, it seems like it's really important to have these good role models because we've all been there. We've had like people in our lives or coworkers or whoever that really give the bare minimum or are pessimistic or negative or you pick your poison versus those that lift you up. So it seems like you're mentioning here about how the company they kind of think in this optimistic way and the people around there, so it just seems like that's very undervalued, understated in being careful about the people that you surround yourself with and being aware of, well, if I find myself unhappy, negative, selfish, sure it's me thinking and doing that, but is a lot of that just what I'm allowing to be around me in my environment?
You have really hit such an important point, and this is really key. And it's funny because I've done some books with Jim Britt and Jim Lutz, and Jim Britt was working with Jim Rohn back in the days of Tony Robbins first starting out. And Jim Rohn used to say, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time around. So if you don't like who you are, and if you're unhappy, look around you because you may need to change some of those people." Sometimes it may even be relatives that you need to kind of put a little at arm's length. So, that's an important part. And the other thing that to me was really interesting with this company, and again, people can learn about it at liveyoungertoday.com. And I'm happy to work with anyone and help anyone because I really believe in this. But it was really interesting at the last convention, they actually had John Maxwell come and speak. He's done over 90 books on self development and personal development. And one of the things he said just ties in so perfectly with what you were just saying. He said, ask yourself, are you a plus in someone's life or a minus in someone's life? And that's like a really important, uh, you know, determination to make for yourself. Because again, you want to go back to giving more and being pluses. And being around pluses so that you can really grow and contribute to rising, the tide of humanity and lifting everyone up. So I just thought that was a great quote from John Maxwell. And I love that perspective to just apply it to yourself. Think about that. How do you feel? Do
Right.
people?
it makes you think about the other side of the coin from Jim Rohn, because the Jim Rohn thing is like, well, the five people around you who are helping you, but you're saying, well, hey, also have some awareness on what are you doing with someone else's life. And this whole idea, it's tricky, isn't it? This idea of, well, there are people in my life and they've been around for so long, and I don't want to be a jerk and just say, hey, I don't have time for you. But there really is like a limited amount of your own sort of patience or space on the schedule. And it seems like if there is that friend or family member who's not really, who's kind of holding you back in a way, it's like, well, if you can dial it down, right? You don't have to just like completely shun them. You can just not, you choose to not spend as much time, or maybe you can like revisit, but it doesn't have to be like so drastic or sudden as you might think hearing that Jim Rohn sort of quote, right? You might think like, okay, I only have 5 slots, but it's not so harsh like that.
No, it's also like a lot of people are so influenced by their parents. They got messages from their parents. Oh, you can't do that. Oh, you'll never amount to anything. And now in their adulthood, they're kind of believing those myths that their parents planted. Now, of course, you can't necessarily eliminate your parents from your life, but you can eliminate those messages and change them and start bringing people into your life that are more supportive and that rejoice in your successes and the accomplishments that you have rather than tearing you down. Oh, what? In fact, when I started my doctorate PhD, a fellow tennis player of mine, I was sharing with her, I need to get off this team because I need to spend more time on my studies. And when I told her what I was doing, she said, why would you do that? And I thought, okay, you're not someone I want to really be around. Why not do that? I mean, it was such a negative reaction. And it really shocked me that she would respond like that rather than, wow, what a cool thing to do. Why not? And that's the point too, is, just never stop. Always keep that curiosity alive, keep learning, keep looking, and keep growing. And that to me is what is the juice of life, and that's what gives us abundance in terms of the richness of every day. We're in control of that. We make the choices, so it all is interconnected, as you started out.
Yeah, it is. And we can make the choice, as tough as it is. If someone says something that we don't like or discourages us, if that affects our decision making, then that part is on us that we let that through the filter. But you're also saying here that there's definitely value in being an encouraging person. And you don't have to lie or be disingenuous, but it is hard to unlearn the negativity. And if someone is taking a risk, if they're starting a new business, if they're changing careers, changing location, like we don't know what the future holds. And you don't have to doubt someone. If someone is doing something that you can see as a positive direction and see the good in it, then why not be encouraging? And that's just a kind of a tough skill to have. Like I heard some hypothetical story once that said, like, well, say you have like a shy kid in your family, right? Say you have like that shy cousin or nephew or
That was
something.
me.
Yeah, that's you. And let's say that one day you actually like are sociable and you like break out of your shell and you have a good day and you're socializing, and then there's the temptation to like mock the person or laugh at the person or make jokes and say, "Oh, well, what's got you changed in attitude?" And then what does that cause you to go right back into the hiding in the deep dark shell, because the lesson was put out there that, well, being shy is preferred, and if you go and try new things and kind of be more expressive, then that's an invitation to be mocking. So I took a very strong mental note and said, like, okay, as far as the future of my parenting years with my son, if there's ever something like that, which hasn't happened yet, but if he's just like goes from shy to not being, then don't do that, and instead be encouraging and do your best to not fall into all these little traps of like mocking or embarrassing someone. And so there's a lot of, just like you said, baggage from our childhood and parents we have to kind of unlearn, undo, reframe.
Well, and it's about accepting. You don't necessarily have to encourage, but just accept it. Don't judge it. It's neither good nor bad. It's their moment in time. It's their choice in that moment. Just be there to support them in whatever way you can. And a lot of times what happens is, and I'm actually working on another book with world-renowned yogi master Amrit Desai, and he talks so much about the ancient wisdom teachings and how we definitely are the subjective perceiver. So we judge things and then react to them. And that may not even be what's real. We may meet someone new and they remind us, they look just like an ex-husband who, was really an alcoholic and just a miserable human being in a relationship. And so you react to that person with negativity, judgment immediately, and that isn't at all who that person is, but that's been your subjective reaction, and we all have that. So a lot of it comes down to awareness, really noticing what you notice. I use that in my classes a lot. And also, being just so mindful about how your patterns are repeating themselves. Because if you start seeing patterns that you're not happy with, you're having difficulty at work with associates, think about what is it in me that's going on that I'm reacting that way to that person. Oftentimes it is within you, has nothing to do with them. They're just a trigger of your reaction. So it's getting aware and tuning into it in a completely different way. And that's hard for a lot of people because we get stuck in those habits. We default back to those old ways of being and they don't serve us. So time to let them go, move on.
Yes, and notice what you notice, break the pattern, because if you don't, then the future will just be more of what the past is. And if you're unhappy with the person you've become and these habits that you have, then that's just a recipe for more of the same until you figure out how to have a better approach and change some of those habits. And so it's been a few years since we last caught up. And as far as you and your own kind of like personal evolution, right? We've been talking about these things that you've learned, things that you've done, but is there anything that you yourself, Peggy Sealfon, have had to like rethink or overcome or just change as far as your thinking and mindset go?
Well, absolutely, especially with the network marketing approach. I had to really rely on other people. And having been a leader and having so many of my own businesses, I've always been the one that kind of picked up and had to do everything and did do everything. And now I'm learning better skills at delegating. And that's really helpful because you can do so much more when you learn to really let go and delegate and trust. Other people aren't going to do it exactly how you would, and that's okay. And you can actually learn from them as well in how they do it. And I actually used to do that in my earlier businesses. I would always empower my staff to be who they were and to tap into their skills. But now I'm kind of going to another level. And the other side of all of this is, my big message to so many people is that if you're going through challenges, great, because the breakthrough is right around the corner. The light is right around the corner. I feel adversity leads to breakthroughs. And I've experienced that with a novel that came out for me in the middle of the pandemic. And it was the first fictional piece that I wrote. And it came out of some difficult times I was going through. And all of a sudden, this story downloaded, and I've now won 3 national book awards. And it's now an audiobook thanks to someone we both know.
Thanks to Catherine O'Connor. Yes.
Yes. Yeah,
Well, cool.
great job.
And I think the saying is if you're going through hell, keep going. And
Yeah.
so that's some powerful ideas just as far as if everything is great and there are no problems, then what are you doing with your life? You need to have some amount of stress, some pressure, some difficulty in order to get your strength up. And obviously you don't want it to be too bad, but if everything is just perfectly hunky dory, then something's completely wrong, and we need to rework and rethink that. And so, just kind of making sure that we cover all the bases and talk about what you have going on. So this network marketing that you're in, the Live Younger Today, is there a way to, like, in our last few minutes here, quickly explain like the technology you mentioned about like phototherapy and copper peptides? And so if someone says, okay, well, this sounds like some cool, like almost like magical cutting edge technology, like what's the sort of explanation for it?
So, phototherapy is like what the sun does. When it touches your skin, it actually creates a chemical reaction that stimulates the formation of vitamin D. So it's a very common kind of occurrence. So what David has done is distilled this phototherapy approach into kind of a nanotechnology approach for patches that you can just wear on your skin. It stimulates your skin. In the case of the stem cell activating patch, it activates a copper peptide called GHKCU. And you can look that up on pubmed.gov and see all of the amazing things it does. And that actually does activate your stem cells. And you have that particular copper peptide in almost every cell in your body. So people sleep better, they end up having more energy, they get healthier, they're looking better, the skin clears up, just amazing results. And over time, I've helped people avoid surgeries, knee surgeries, shoulder surgeries. The body wants to heal itself. It has an innate wisdom. And when you give it the right support, in addition to this technology, just, eating right, getting enough quality sleep, getting exercise, reducing your stress levels, all of that, it upregulates your body and it starts working in the first 24 hours. It's pretty amazing. Now, people don't necessarily feel it right away because who knows what they've been through to get to this place that they're in or whatever conditions they're dealing with, but it's amazing.
And it sounds amazing. And so, how do we find out more about this and about what you have going on? You have your book from 2015, Escape from Anxiety. You have your novel you mentioned from the pandemic called Awakening. And then we mentioned that website, liveyoungertoday.com. So, we only have a limited amount of time here, right? We're here to give people a taste, a sense of you, hear some cool stories and lessons, and then say, hey, Peggy Sealfon, she has a lot of what I need as far as eliminating the stress and being healthy and getting the energy. So if someone wants to find out more about what we discussed, what are some next steps? What are some URLs to go to?
Well, I think you mentioned at the beginning of the program, mindbodyfitnessforlife.com is a compilation and integration of all of these different methodologies. I teach people everything from learning mindfulness to, yoga, but also modern technologies. So it's a combination depending what someone needs. Liveyoungertoday.com is more about this network marketing company and technology. It explains it in more detail because as we age, the stem cell activity is reduced in our bodies, and that's why we start aging. So by reversing that now, you're starting to repair areas in your body that maybe need some attention and need some balancing. And then my main site is just my name, peggysealfon.com. I have a lot of free things on there, 3 minutes to de-stress and relaxation videos and just a lot of different material. And my books are on there as well. So I also just did a book with Jim Britt and Jim Lutz called The Change, Insights into Self-Empowerment. And it's one of the fastest growing personal development book series in the world. And if somebody wants to reach out to me, and I can't remember the URL off the top of my head, but I'd be happy to give them a free copy. I can send it to them digitally. So if they just want to reach out, they can email me at peggy@liveyoungertoday.com and just mention The Change and I'll send them a copy.
Wonderful. Peggy at liveyoungertoday.com and mention that you want a copy of the Change book. And there's so many resources available to us now, aren't there, Peggy? But it's up to us to take action and to separate the signal from the noise and say, hey, this is something I'm curious about. This is what's right for me. And I'll go ahead and read the book or listen to the audio book or join the network marketing company. But we have to, it's up to us to actually make that change in your life. It won't happen for us.
And the biggest thing to me is people have to take time to just be in stillness. Take a few minutes. I have that 3 minutes to de-stress.com. Just taking time out helps you refocus, helps you tune into that authentic self that really lives within you, that has all the answers. And if you're just going and doing, you're not listening to the inner self that really has your best interest at heart. So that's really important, even if it's just 5 minutes to sit quietly, do some deep breathing and just focus in and listen to the inner messages. It's amazing what can happen.
I love it. I agree. And even a few minutes is more than a lot of people may be doing. So just, some is better than none. And so those websites we mentioned are peggysealfon.com. That's SEALFON. and mindbodyfitnessforlife.com and liveyoungertoday.com. And so as someone is figuring out which of those solutions is right for them and going to one of those websites, it's time to put you on the spot a little bit and ask about a fun quote or lesson that will really get us excited and send us on our way. So does anything come to mind as far as one final powerful motivational quote or lesson to pass on to us?
So, kind of in alignment with everything we've talked about, I love Albert Einstein's comment where he says, you know, my thought is failure is not an option, but he says you never fail if you keep trying. And that kind of dovetails with the Japanese expression fall down 7 times, get up 8 times. So keep going, just keep trying new things. If this direction isn't right, switch to another direction. You never fail if you keep going. So I love being able to inspire and encourage people to do that because that's the adventure and we're all in this together. So we all support and help each other, hopefully.
Very nice. That is encouraging. Keep going. Wonderful speaking with you, Peggy Sealfon.
Wonderful being with you, Robert. I've really enjoyed it. We kind of went into different areas and that was fun. Thank you.
Yes, I had fun too. Thank you, and you're very welcome as well. All right.